Don Harder's topic that I struggle to coach on, and I'm going to try to do my best to explain exactly what it is that I mean. So wait until the end before making a decision on whether I've got a point or I don't. Um, and I this is something that I struggle with, right? Because I want to make sure that all of you guys understand that it's all about repetition, consistency. Um, Nothing much matters if you don't show up, right? You can have the best idea, you can have the most amazing marketing, but if you're not consistent, then obviously it doesn't really matter. However, there is something to be said about being different for the sake of being different, right? One of the things that I can always wholeheartedly say without really thinking twice about it is that you can't be the best if you're going to be the same, right? I think even if you're wrong, I would rather you be different. And let me explain what I mean by this. What absolutely can't happen is doing what everyone else is doing, right? And most importantly, doing what everyone else is doing and expecting separation. I'm a big believer of, obviously by now you know that I'm a big believer of separation. And separation is a decision that you make first, right? It shows up every single day in your actions. It shows up what you choose to do differently. And it doesn't, and look, at the end of the day, it doesn't have to be everything, right? It doesn't have to be every single post has to be different, but you got to pick a lane that you want to be different in. And I think that the following, I think, are kind of non-negotiable items that you should start thinking about now. And I've got a few, right? Maybe I got like three or four. Let's start with social media, right? 90% of the things that you post are similar to what, or even exactly the same as everybody else posts. But your content can't look like everyone else's all the time, right? Otherwise, you'd be invisible. So one of the things that I would recommend is post with intention. So this week, publish one piece of content that teaches something real, right? Forget about the consistent not just listed or the consistent just solds. Teach one thing about, for example, owning, selling, taxes, right? Financing. How about strategy? More than the average agent would take time to explain, right? So be very specific and intentional with what you post on one out of the seven things that you're going to post. I'm not, again, it's exhausting to think about being different on every single piece of content that you want to post, but pick a lane, right? And then choose one. Um, I think the next thing I want you to think about is picking random activity and replacing it with intentional activity. And I use that word a lot, intention, because every single move that you make has to be with intention. The intention to create, the intention to convert, the intention to separate, right? Everything has to be with intention. And a lot of people are very fixated on being busy, right? I don't think busy is impressive. And I think that a lot of you guys, are proud of the fact that you're busy and you're constantly moving. I don't think busy is impressive. I think direction is, but I don't think busy is. So one of the things that I would do is write down every Monday, right, or every Tuesday, whenever you start your week. One activity about creating conversations, right? So, for example, I always tell you guys call 15, 20 people from your database a day, right? But now call 15, 20 people and be specific about something. What if you're doing a Zoom event, right? Where you're going to leverage the tax discussion that you had. It's about tax season is around the corner, and is there an accountant that you have in your database that you'd like to interview on Zoom. So call people about that. Again, you're separating yourself from a sea of sameness. You're not calling them to sell. You're calling them to help, right? Talk about what's happening and what it can mean for them. The next thing I would think about when I'm trying to give you guys intentional activity is something that builds authority. And if you want to talk about that tax interview that you had with that accountant, record a 60-second Zoom video explaining it and what you learned from it and what your buyers or your sellers learn from it. I don't think I think we're all about hype, right? You need to be more about context. You need to be more about, okay, this is exactly how this helps my buyers, my sellers, my database, my clients, my followers. And the last thing I would say, as far as being intentional with your activity, is think about things that compound over time, especially in this day and age where anything that you post on social media is gone. And it used to be 3 seconds. Now it's not even a second. It's not even half a second. People are scrolling so fast. Anything and everything that you post disappears in seconds. So one of the reasons that I've been other than the obvious, where I want enough content on your website for engines like ChatGPT and Gemini and the likes, is that blogs live on your site, right? And you can share it a lot more easily, or a lot easier, excuse me, than you can share a post, right? So the things that you want to live on your blog that compound over time, what is it? Answer questions. I always tell you guys, answer questions. Should I sell now or wait? That's something that you can write in 3 seconds, post it on Google, email it out, have it live on your site. Why certain loan products for certain buyers that lives on your website. You can constantly share those kinds of things and repurpose them as well. Okay. The third thing I would think about is be known for something specific, right? What are you known for? If I were to ask 20 of your buyers or 20 of your sellers or 20 people that you know, would they be able to tell me something specific that you're known for? I think generic agents compete on everything, right? They compete on price, they compete on service. Uh, you don't want to do that. You don't want to be, you want price, you want commission, you want what you charge to be an afterthought. I don't even want that to come up in a buyer's consultation or a listing presentation, right? I think specialists, I don't think they compete at all because you're the only one, right? So if that buyer or that seller wants to get something from you, they've got to pay for it, right? So you've got to be a specialist, right? You've got to be known for something specific. So I would say pick a lane these next 90 days, whether it's first-time buyers, off-market opportunities, trust and probate, investor deals. Then I would take one of those and then make all your content or be very intentional with your content. Every conversation, every email that you send out kind of leads back to one of the things that you chose: first time buyers, off market opportunities, trust and probate, et cetera, et cetera. Number four, and this is something that I've been talking about since the jump, and I think that you out prepare. I think that a lot of people they talk about it, right? So you try to kind of out talk and not out prepare, if that makes any sense, right? So most agents try to win with their personality, their charisma, their pizzazz, right? I think professionals they win with preparation, right? You have to be so obsessed with that buyer experience or that seller experience where you're preparing for that buyer's consultation and making sure that everything that you have to share is right there in your or your buyer consultation box. Same exact thing as a listing presentation, right? Out prepare. Make sure that you know every single home, expired, canceled, sold, in escrow, just listed, coming soon, every single one, properties, the community, and people that you've talked to most recently, right? When you're about to hit an open house, out prepare. It's you've got to make sure that every single thing on that list for open house, getting ready for open houses is completed. Otherwise, no sense in doing it. And I think the last part here is measure something your competitors don't, right? Measure what matters is what we always say. It's from a book written by John Doerr. That's the title. Measure everything, right? Start tracking everything. Conversations per week, for example. How many conversations have you had over the last couple of days? 20, 40, 10, 5, whatever that is. And then you gotta know what you did in order for you to know where you're going, right? So if you had 5 conversations yesterday, try to have 6. But if you didn't measure the number of conversations that you had and you're just going random, then you're not going to have an opportunity to measure how to improve, right? So for measure conversations, measure follow-ups. How many market updates are you sending? How many pieces of content are you publishing? How many times are you posting on social media? How many times are you emailing every single week? Measure all of it. Because look, the truth is, I don't think, and I always say this, you don't need to be perfect. People are so stuck on perfect. It doesn't matter, right? What matters is that it's different. I think perfect is, and we always talk about perfect being the enemy of progress. 100%, right? Everybody tries to, and I think it's an excuse. It's not perfect, that's why I'm not going to do it. No, it's just you didn't want to do it, right? So I think uh, you have to choose progress over perfect. You have to separate yourself by being intentional. You separate yourself by willing to look different before it even feels comfortable. And I think you separate yourself by acting the part. Know who you want to be before you actually start being it, right? I think you can be wrong and still win. But you cannot, I don't think you can be the same and expect to win, if that makes any sense. That needs to be the new standard for you, right? You've got to be different for the sake of being different. You've got to be very intentional with every single move that you make, and you got to obsess over preparation. John Harders, thank you very much for your time. Always, I really hope that you're going to take my advice this morning and really be a lot more intentional with the things that you're doing. Cheers.